dictate our opportunities in life. It mandates that you accept discrimination against you so that others it deems underprivileged may prosper. In college, in hiring, in seeking financial loans or outright aid, the productive citizen is now the class to be used and abused so that foreigners, illegal and legal, can be imported to take the opportunities that rightfully belong to the American, to degrade the wages that corporate America must pay out, to dilute the voting powers of the angry native citizens in a sea of immigrants willing to accept any government marginally less brutal than wherever they came from. The life opportunities will be denied to your children in an even more brutal fashion than you ever experienced. They will soon forget their dreams and accept a reduced outlook on their future. You know, you experienced this truth. Your own life is reduced to what you can find because the native is put down in the favor of the foreigner, as if we were not worthy or worthwhile to do what we would have preferred or enjoyed. That is, our aspirations are not a thing worthy of any worth or weight. And we can see the sorrow among our children today as they face the same stark reality of reduced opportunity. Your children are denied entry to the universities where the next generation of elites are formed. Or even if by some chance they are admitted, the costs of attending are made unbearable to the middle-class worker. Instead, this ruling class favors the pliable foreigner, the disadvantaged minority, as the preferred type to promote rulership over you. And you had better believe that there is no good intention gone awry or merely an oversight. That is where our government has brought us today. The American citizen, leveled, tamed, and enslaved to this hapless era of tax enhancement and wage degradation and political castration. And you would ask why a government would do this to its own people. Why? Because this government does not serve the people. It does not serve the countrymen. It has not served the countrymen for nearly 100 years. It now serves an elite, the ruling class, and their needs dictate a docile, sheep-like population that is content to labor for whatever scraps this ruling class deems to fit to throw to them, while never questioning the righteousness or the authority of the masters and the state that serves its interests. The ruling class is nothing more than a set of tricksters and thieves. They are the financial class, those stinking liars and cheats who create nothing of value and yet take the bulk of the wealth created by the working class. They are the corporate executive class that treats a company's assets like a private bank account to pay themselves outrageous amounts and to entertain themselves and their friends. They are the legal class, the lawyers that exist only to create laws and interpret them to tie down the rest of us, to exert their self-professed superiority as carriers of the law, and thus their deserved position as elites. They are the political class that whores itself out to the private ruling class while harming the countrymen to gain access to the wealth and fame of their masters. They are the media class that enables all the others among the elite to display and revel in their superiority, their superior position, to tell us how little we know and how much they know. And they are all part of a private club whose actions only go to benefit their own. Your wages, your wealth, what little you have left is only something to cheat you out of so that their ideas and aspirations can be fulfilled, so that they can live in wealthy enclaves and drive the best cars, so that they can mingle with the rich and famous at fabulous closed events, so that they can send their children to the elite universities where the next generation of rulers are primed. They are the ruling class because you are the slave. But unlike the slaves of times past, you are too blind to even know it. It should be apparent, if not obvious, that this government, and indeed all governments, are nothing more than a scam set up by a tiny minority of self-aggrandizing, self-important, shameless criminals to enforce their way. Because if it weren't for a government with the armed force of thousands of enforcers to set the people straight, this ruling class would have been hanged long ago. This will end. The Freemen will set this right. We will corner these thieves and wring them out. Their stolen riches will be confiscated and used to balance the end. One point that must be understood as we begin this mission is that our interests are diametrically opposed to the ruling class, and that this class of interests is a zero-sum game. Every inch that we take in our own benefit is an inch taken from those who would seek to rule us. And you will learn that the media is an integral member of this ruling class. Therefore, it is inevitable that this media is an active enemy of the Freemen. Our media teaches us that lawyers, police, and prosecutors of the state are the heroes that stride above us like demigods. Don't you agree? Every serious show on matters of human morality is depicted as these great Ubermensch of the state disciplining us, the Untermensch, the civilian gone wrong. And yet, we know the great amounts of corruption in this entire class. We know of the police lawlessness, the false convictions, the crass politics of this justice system, their absolute contempt of our justice in order to further their own. Others glorify the basest of professions with crass exhibitionist shows. Pawn shop keepers, tattoo parlors are glorified as superior to us, the producers, the engineers, the technicians, and you must ask, who would seek to do that? The productive American worker is relegated to the comedy section in the minds of the controllers of our media. We are depicted as spineless automatons, as fools whose wives are dissatisfied whores, whose children are wiser in their homosexuality and their alternative lifestyle choices. We are being told by the ruling class that our morality and sense of justice are irrelevant and outmoded. Did these fools think that there would be not one who would eventually stand up with some anger and strike back? That we would simply bow down to their unwisdom, finally exhausted from decades of base subversion? They would be wrong, because theirs is not simply the agenda of preparing us for accepting the moral judgments of their class over us, but that this message is a message to the countrymen that you are only here to work and hand over your share to them. That you are all willing slaves, and that you should still be happy in that, like the idiots on TV. Could you imagine a media depicting our movement as noble and true? Could you imagine a media depicting the agents of the government as the criminals that they are, being humbled by one of us? Never! All are part of the same class that seeks to put us down and raise themselves over us. And so it must become obvious to you that our fight extends across the spectrum of the human condition. It is not enough that we are robbed and still know of it. No, we must become oblivious to it. We must like it. That we have finally become infected with an alien morality that seeks to destroy every system that makes liberal Western society the greatest engine of humanity in history. This media is a powerful tool. It is indeed a powerful weapon held in the wrong hands. And the first weakness of our enemy is that we are aware of them and their methods. We will infiltrate this media. We will intimidate this media to put forth our view, We will put our message out among the countrymen to inform them of the true state of the nation, to let them know what a decayed mess this thing called government has become. We will put out the message of all the ways this government cheats and puts them down in favor of other classes, to make them aware of the lies by which this illegitimate state still rules. We should have no doubt about the anger among the countrymen once they have a clear line of sight to the oppressor. It is only through wielding the power to impose our view into this media that our project will be effective. Though we may eventually gather enough men to replace this government by threat of arms alone, it is our determined goal to bring about a wholesale loss of faith in all aspects of the state, and thus allow a discredited government the opportunity to step down before the hammer falls. Men are afraid in isolation. We recognize the futility of standing up alone, so we wait. We search for the path. We look at tea parties and ponder, is that the path? We listen to fools on radio and television. We read their websites. Nothing! It is all a sham. Two sides of the same coin. The socialist decries the excesses of the fascist when not in power, and vice versa. The stench of the socialist and fascist embeds every movement today, and you will rightly discern them for false movements. We know who these people are. Liars and apologists seeking to co-opt any movement and neutralize it. They cloak themselves as reformers. The conservative rails against taxes and welfare, while he demands more war and surveillance. The progressive protests wars started by fascists and the surveillance state, while demanding more public domains and services. All of this done on the back of the freemen. And then each tells you to be grateful for the service they provide. So the freemen scattered far and wide sit and wait and fume. It would seem futile to search for the true movement, for among the thousands of helpless, feeble, and corrupt organizations, would he even recognize it if he saw it? In reality, it is nothing for the freemen to recognize the beacon. It is easy enough for you. You recognize the message is untainted, pure, and most important, it carries the weight of force. It is the unyielding message of doing violence unto those who have done violence upon the American worker for so long. That is one measure of the fidelity. You must know that no true liberty can come about without the promise of blood and steel. That no state retains in its own mind a monopoly on violence will ever give up its position unless it faces the same. Is it not clear to you, Freeman? The clarity of our message and our purpose, and that we do not do this to merely replace this corrupt regime with another that demands exactly the same servility from its citizens, but that there will be a new republic, a second republic, one dedicated to protecting the natural rights of its members and destroying any who seek to impinge on those rights. And so you know what it is that this government fears the most. It is the thing we wield among us tonight, the rifle. It is the rifle that ensures that the countryman is superior to the G-man. It is superior to any sniveling bureaucrat waving his booklet of regulations at us. Superior to the laws of scoundrels. These rifles are an old right left to us by the founders of the First Republic. The rifles that we wield here today are the path to our liberation. The method of the freemen is to gather in strength and show the state, the people, and those who would join us that the state is nothing more than a dog that has grown too bold. A dog to be slapped backwards into the corner that it may again learn its place. The rifle in the hands of 1,000 freemen can defeat any force can impose its will, can ensure that we stand over those that think they can oppose us at any point of confrontation.